Senator, one democracy will settle it. And you know which one. I think it's an interesting point you raise because historically, there is a reason why West and democracy were equated. But over a period of time, I think the West needs to outgrow that. Because today, more people live in non-Western democracies than in Western democracies. So, still, we are all creatures of habit. So we use shorthand formulations even if they are anachronistic. So I take your point, but I think part of Westlessness is a kind of, the West has to understand this larger rebalance, as I said, the rebalancing. The fact that even democracy today, there are people in other continents who own it and claim it as strongly as people in Europe or North America do.
I think
No, I'm part of the East, I'm part of the South, I'm part of the West, I'm universal. I'm India.
The Senator's last comment, I think, hit the nail on the head. South Korea is West, if you're going by values. I think there was a comment in the film that was introduced at the beginning when one said, instead of talking about the West, let's talk about the values that we're trying to perform. And I think as long as these values are grounded in the dignity of the human being, and I think there's much common ground. And but it's also important to remember that we also need to talk to those who don't share our values. We have a neighbor who don't share our values, definitely, but we need to talk to overcome the huge security challenge. And so as we try to promote and strengthen the values among like-minded, we also need to talk to those who don't necessarily do so.
This is a really good question, I think. So if Scotland gets out of the UK, it'll be through the democratic process, right? Okay. Crimea was annexed with a Russian tank in front of your door is probably not a good way to vote. I end every discussion at home about war and democracy and why it matters. You got China who's trying to shut down everything close to democracy. In India, you're moving forward. You're having elections. You got your problems like we do at home. But you've chosen the democratic path. When it comes to Kashmir, I don't know how it ends, but let's make sure that two democracies will end it differently. And if you can prove that concept here, then I think it's probably the best way to sell democracy.
Don't worry, Senator, one democracy will settle it. And you know which one.
Nothing can match the energy of Dr. S. Jaishankar when he says, I am part of the East, I am part of the South, I am part of the West, I am universal, I am India. He exactly knows how to reply appropriately when someone points finger to the largest, most diverse, proven and secular democracy, that is India. Indian foreign policy has witnessed mammoth progress only because of Dr. S. Jaishankar. Indians are fortunate enough to have such a foreign minister. The confidence he has is mind-blowing. The senator referred two democracies will settle it, referring to India and Pakistan. Well, those who believe that Pakistan is a democracy, then they are living in the fool's paradise. I feel that S. Jaishankar ji should have added that the other country is not even democracy. Maybe that would have been more savage. Dr. S. Jaishankar replied, one democracy will settle it, and you know which one. Obviously, that's India. Wow. Simply wow. He even represents his Sanatan Dharma values because Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam philosophy itself means India believes in the whole world being its family. The South Korean foreign minister keeps on telling, we have a neighbor who doesn't share values. Think about India. We've got two hostile neighbors like China and Pakistan. One believes in spreading terrorism in India and has a dedicated policy of bleed India with 1,000 cuts, and the other one has full plans to disrupt and separate Northeast India with insurgency. South Korea is fed up with one Kim Jong-un. We have Draculas and snakes around us. And the nasty dragon goes one step further in destabilizing our neighbors too. Poor Sri Lanka got trapped in Chinese death trap. And what to say about Pakistan? They are self capable of destruction. There's some super powerful driving force that pushes the dictator of Pakistan to take every wrong decision for its people and then roam around the world with a begging bowl. And sometimes China is successful in even provoking Nepali leaders like KP Sharma Oli that they even claim Indian territories to be theirs. Now, coming to the West, that audacity of the senator and then S. Jaishankar's reply just destroyed him in seconds. That too, while laughing and in a relaxed mood. That's top class. Dr. S. Jaishankar's replies speaks volumes for the experience he gained in his diplomatic career as an IFS officer. The West and their fake promotion of democracy has to end. S. Jaishankar rightly pointed out that in today's world, more people live in the non Western democracies than in the Western democracies. Plus one for this verbal murder. Teaming with Diplomacy by Dr. S. Jaishankar. The West tries to be the maestro of democracy and doesn't know the democratic principles themselves. Take, for example, the very much prevalent racism in UK. Remember the Meghan Markle controversy? The Black Lives Matter protest in the US. Doesn't democracy means inclusion? I really don't think racism and killing people of color is symbolic of democracy. The West is still in the colonial hangover. They had even supported the military regime of Pakistan during the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, literally leaving no stone unturned for the democratic nation India to suffer. And if you look at this with a larger perspective, this war was to liberate the poor people of the erstwhile East Pakistan who were deprived and dejected by the West Pakistan, only because they spoke different language and didn't have the same culture. The West really needs to introspect. It's high time they can't lecture India anymore. We have a minister that strikes the right balance, and his foreign policy is a tremendous boost for India. Dr. S. Jaishankar is so suave. He slays people without raising his voice. Simple, calm, composed, rational, and well-reasoned replies. That's it. The expression of the senator after listening to what S. Jaishankar said was priceless. He is the feel-good factor for Indians. I myself watch him speak in his videos, and there's a lot to learn from him. The first thing is his ability to speak so well, even in the most trickiest situations. The second thing is the confidence. Each of his words and his body language, in true sense, has beaming confidence. I have learned from him that to raise your argument, you need not raise your voice. One cannot but help agree with his realistic views. He is an institution in himself. I have emphasized on this thing before in my previous videos. His explanation on the history of India, geopolitics, and entire dynamics as whole should be included in books for the future generations to study. Imagine a dedicated chapter on this noble man. Definitely, the younger generation will feel motivated, inspired, and will be filled with patriotism on reading about him. And definitely, he has taken Indian foreign policy to a height that it will not be an easy task for his successors to follow up. The upcoming policymakers can definitely learn from him. Well, this was it from my end. I have created an entire playlist by the name of Dr. S. Jaishankar. If you like this content, I'm sure you're going to like all the other videos that I've created on Dr. S. Jaishankar's several conferences and interviews. Consider liking the video and subscribing the channel if you like our content. Please share it among your friends too and help us grow. And do not forget to mention your viewpoints in the comment section below. Till then, goodbye. Jai Hind.